To understand why I devoted 10 years of my life to this, you need to see exactly how it began. I was fresh out of university, full of hope and ambition. My name is Aaron Locke, a quiet, methodical software engineer. I met Marjorie Wells on my first day at Series Tech, a mid-sized cybersecurity firm. She was dazzling, sharp, charismatic, always first to volunteer for high-visibility projects. She took me under her wing. I was grateful, eager to soak up her expertise. From the start, she praised me in public, then subtly belittled me in private. She helped me with code reviews, then leaked my errors to upper management. She invited me to late-night strategy sessions, then blamed me when clients complained that I was inexperienced. Each time, the praise and punish cycle tightened its grip. I told myself it was just corporate politics, that everyone had to pay their dues. But beneath the surface, I was drowning. My confidence eroded, my friendship stifled as I worked longer hours just to keep up. Then came the money. On a cross-department project, Marjorie manipulated me into approving phony vendor invoices. I trusted her judgment. She presented them with rehearsed precision, forged signatures, and fabricated purchase orders. I never read the fine print. Within weeks, CFO audits flagged a six-figure discrepancy. I was the only name on those approval forms. Overnight, I went from rising star to corporate scapegoat. Stress consumed me. Sleep eluded me. Food soured in my stomach. I watched as colleagues averted their eyes. I faced an internal investigation that threatened to blackball my career. My life unraveled. My fiancé left me, citing the scandal and the emotional toll. I lost my apartment. I woke up each morning to the dread of phone calls, messages from debt collectors, ominous silences. I admit, I considered giving up. But amidst the wreckage, a single thought crystallized. Marjorie must pay. She had the connections, the smarm, the political skill to escape unscathed, while I fell through the cracks. I vowed that if I had to rebuild from scratch, it would be on my own terms, and her ruin would be the cornerstone of my redemption. I left Series Tech under an NDA mega blaster, a confidentiality clause so ironclad it threatened me with six-figure fines if I breathed a word of what truly happened. But I still had my mind, my tech skills, and an unquenchable fire. I changed my identity online, built shell companies, opened new bank accounts under false names. I rented a tiny apartment in a rundown complex, nights lit by a single desk lamp reflecting off a dozen monitors. When most people sleep, I worked, researching corporate laws, memorizing case rulings, devising the perfect legal traps. I learned private investigator techniques, deep web searches, public records mining, speaking to small-town clerks at odd hours for obscure filings. Looking back, that first year was the forge. I forged patience, resourcefulness, caution. I learned that revenge isn't a fling, it's a long marriage. Each misstep would cost me leverage. And so I waited, cultivated my plan like a gardener tending poison ivy, carefully, quietly, until the day I'd strike. That day is fast approaching. The reckoning is near. Exactly 5 years after the scandal, I saw her face on a glossy trade show poster. Marjorie Wells, keynote speaker at the Global Cybersecurity Summit in Berlin. She had reinvented herself as an industry guru, writing books, hosting podcasts, racking up six-figure speaking fees, all while I toiled in obscurity. It was the perfect opportunity. I flew in under the pseudonym Lionel Grant, a venture capitalist interested in her new Secure Future startup. In Berlin's crowded expo hall, I approached her booth. She greeted me with that same dazzling smile, as if she recognized me, no doubt a trick of her confidence. I extended a hand, introduced myself, and she politely accepted, never suspecting who I really was. We spent an afternoon sipping lattes, talking shop. I subtly seeded doubts about her company's valuation, peppered technical questions designed to make her slip. What encryption protocols did you use? Why isn't your patent cited in academic journals? With each probing question, she grew cautious, then defensive. I nodded as she rattled off jargon-heavy explanations, perfect fodder for my dossier. I filmed it all on a concealed microcamera, capturing her tone-deaf claims that her product had never failed in field tests. That evening, over a private dinner arranged in her honor, I whispered condolences for her supposed unfortunate lawsuit in Silicon Valley. I feigned sympathy, let her vent about that arbitration I'd orchestrated months ago, an anonymous filing that claimed infringement on a trivial algorithm. She didn't know the filing came from me. Her irritation peaked on camera. She cursed under her breath, called the other party incompetent hacks, and questioned the arbitrator's impartiality. By the time the summit ended, I had stolen every ounce of her bravado. Back at my hotel, I decrypted her NDA templates, found inconsistencies between her public statements and actual product capabilities, discovered unpaid subcontractor claims in Chinese court filings. I downloaded internal communications from a contractor's unsecured AWS bucket. I compiled each piece of evidence into a dossier so damning it would topple a small regime. Throughout this, I toggled between personas, half Polaroid bright investor, half disinterested journalist. I kept my heart rate steady even when they served us $200 a plate foie gras. In that gilded dining room, she bragged about securing funding from an anonymous angel. News to me, but soon to be public record. I scribbled notes on a napkin, folding it into the spine of her gifted book. No one suspected. And when I left Berlin at dawn, I carried the seeds of her destruction in every encrypted file on my drive. Now the clock is ticking. Each piece of evidence must be timed perfectly. Too soon, and she'll bury it. Too late, and she'll move on without looking back. Wait, refine, strike. That's the motto etched into my mind. The first domino is in place. 2 years later, the first crack appeared. I anonymously filed a police report in London alleging corporate espionage, that Marjorie's company had stolen proprietary code from a small UK startup. The London Met Cybercrime Unit opened a low-profile investigation. I leaked internal emails proving the alleged startup's claims, emails I had secretly exchanged with their CTO, posing as a friendly investor. The evidence was airtight. Headline after headline. Cybersecurity guru under fire. Whistleblower claims Marjorie Wells misused patented technology. Her reputation reeled. Sponsors dropped her keynotes. Podcast collaborations were canceled overnight. Sponsors demanded refunds. Late-night TV hosts skewered her in monologues. Investors who once clamored for a board seat now wanted meetings with her legal team. Her carefully crafted persona cracked. I watched as she scrambled to contain the damage, issuing public statements, denying accusations, threatening defamation suits. But each statement contradicted earlier ones we had on file. A now viral tweet surfaced. Secure Future guarantees 100% data integrity for IoT devices. Yet her own product manuals explicitly warn of occasional packet loss. Boom, another hammer blow. With a friend who's a paralegal in Toronto, I drafted a private class action lawsuit on behalf of 24 condo residents who claimed their smart home systems failed catastrophically. Leaked to a Canadian legal blog, the complaint cited her own marketing materials. I provided affidavits from anonymous sources, texts identified by voice-distorted recordings I made during factory tours. I watched the firm publish the PDF. Downloads skyrocketed. She was being sued in multiple jurisdictions. The avalanche had begun. Weeks later, Scotland Yard alerted Interpol. There was chatter of criminal charges for willful fraud. I remained in the shadows, communicating through burner phones and encrypted email. My heart surged not with guilt, but with satisfaction. For every false promise she made, I delivered a dose of her own medicine, exposed, public, unignorable. She went into hiding, briefly in Switzerland, then Dubai. Each move leaked to the press by me. I created false travel itineraries and anonymously tipped financial journalists. She was hounded by paparazzi at airports, once even chased off a private jet by protesters demanding refunds. Her social media went dark as lawsuits stacked up. Defamation countersuits, breach of contract claims, regulatory inquiries. Each day, her net worth plummeted, her network fragmented. Somewhere in this collapse, a part of me remembered younger Aaron, broken and alone. But I pressed on. Marjorie wanted to play ruthless corporate games, so I offered her the mirror image of betrayal. And now, as her empire quakes, I prepare for the next phase, the legal decapitation. The courtroom is waiting, and the final verdict will be the culmination of a decade's careful revenge. The lawsuits converged in San Francisco Superior Court. I filed a consolidated complaint under a pseudonym for breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, racketeering, and negligence. Each count backed by volumes of exhibits, emails, contracts, recorded depositions. The opposition's bench was stacked with high-paid attorneys. I had anticipated this. So I secretly retained a small litigation boutique that specialized in David versus Goliath cases, paid through a front I set up in Panama. Pre-trial motions flew like shrapnel. Marjorie's lawyers filed to strike key exhibits as hearsay. I countered with a motion to compel, attaching affidavits from retired prosecutors vouching for chain of custody protocols I followed. The judge, an old hand known for no-nonsense rulings, granted 90% of my evidence. Court transcripts reveal her counsel fuming when private security footage surfaced. Footage I had obtained by photographing the archive entry card left unsecured in her office building. I watched every hearing via a secure live stream. Every time Marjorie's eyes darted to the gallery, I felt a pang of almost sympathy, but it subsided into steel. The trial's emotional highlight came when I played her recorded voice from the arbitration days, where she admitted under breath she hoped the kid would take the fall. The courtroom went silent. Jurors exchanged uneasy glances. Mid-trial, her legal team attempted a settlement to avoid public humiliation, a hush-money offer of $2 million and a non-disparagement clause. I refused. Better to see her squirm in cross-examination. They objected, but their objections were overruled. Judge noted, "Plaintiff is vindicated to see this matter through." I suppressed a grin so hard my jaw ached. Witness after witness corroborated the scheme. Subcontractors, ex-employees, anonymous hackers who had been second-guessed by Marjorie when they reported security holes. Each testimony was laced with transcripts I'd prepared, emails I'd planted to lure them into detailed recollection. The jury got tired of hearing her excuses. She started snapping at her own counsel, demanding they block the next witness. Good. Let her reveal her true nature. After 3 weeks, closing arguments were delivered. I sat stoically as my attorney laid out the timeline like chess moves, each piece set for the checkmate. Marjorie rose for her statement. Stammered, repeated denials, stable-sounding but empty. When the judge dismissed the idea of punitive damages, I held my breath. And then the jury retired. The hour-long deliberation felt like a lifetime. Now, only one thing remained: their verdict and my long-awaited triumph. The jury returned, unanimous in favor of the plaintiff. I watched jurors place their verdict form on the bench. Fraud, breach of contract, racketeering. The $18.7 million judgment against Marjorie Wells was the largest in that district's history for a civil fraud case. As the court clerk read the sums, a hush sank over the gallery. Marjorie's face drained of color. She clutched the rail, her manicured nails digging into the wood. My heart thundered, but tears burned my eyes. After everything, humiliation, homelessness, broken dreams, justice had finally arrived. Her legal team attempted post-trial motions, new trial, reduction of award, even appeals based on procedural errors. Each was denied. The judgment stood. The judge ordered her assets frozen pending collection. Federal marshals arrived to serve liens on her properties, her investment accounts, her luxury vehicle leases. Within days, auction notices went public. The news rippled across the industry. Cybersecurity icon bankrupt after landmark fraud ruling. Podcasts dissected the case. Online forums compiled timelines of her misconduct. My wallet stayed hidden, but I let the story run free. I wanted everyone to know. No matter how high you fly, if you betray and destroy lives, you will be held accountable. 2 weeks later, I received a court-ordered distribution of funds to my trust. I could have wiped my slate clean, paid debts, rebuilt my home, started fresh, but I did something else. I established a foundation, LockNet Legal Aid, offering pro bono representation to professionals falsely accused by powerful corporations. That's how I transformed my pain into purpose. Marjorie filed for personal bankruptcy, listing the judgment as unsecured debt. Her social media accounts lie dormant. Her websites redirect to apology statements buried in fine print. She vanished from speaking circuits, consigned to legal footnotes. Meanwhile, I resumed life under my real name, Aaron Locke, but with a deeper understanding. True power lies not in money or status, but in the quiet certainty that you can rebuild, even after betrayal. 10 years of planning, research, sacrifice, and finally, the scales of justice balanced. Revenge tasted sweet, but in the end, redemption tasted sweeter. And that is my story.